Good evening. Welcome to 10 Days of Power BI. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to 10 Days of Power BI. So, just like we do this every day, I'll be giving few minutes for others to join in as well so everybody can partake in this or as much people can partake in this. So, we're just going to be waiting for a few minutes and then we'll begin. We're just waiting for others to join in as well. So if you can hear me, just drop your location in the chat box. Just tell us where you're joining from. As usual, just let us know while we wait for others to join in today's class. So the time is 6:05 p.m. We're just going to wait for additional 5 minutes. So by 6:10 p.m., We're going to start today's class. So while we wait for others, you can just drop where you're joining us from in the chat box. Just keep dropping it in. In 3 minutes time, we will start today's class. So it's 6:10 p.m. and I think we've given room for others to join in as well. So Welcome to 10 Days of Power BI once again. My name is Chinonso Okonkwo and today is day 7. So we've been learning a lot these past few days. I know it has been a lot to take in for both beginners and people into data analysis and Power BI already. I know it's a lot to take in, but we've been preparing to all we've been doing, we're trying to like prepare and groom ourselves for a project or a case study walkthrough. So today we're going to be getting into a case study and I'm going to be taking you through that. It's going to be, we are going to be going to this case study, and I don't think it's going to take us a day to go through it because I want to put you through it. So we're going to be handling this for as long as it takes, hopefully, maybe 2 days. So we're going to start today and go over what working on a data project or a case study entails. So that's our agenda for today, a case study. Okay. mm, So let's just start off with a brief introduction to the case study. Let's just show you the case study. So we are working on a data set provided by a company, a fictional company called Maven Toys. So this is a sales and inventory data for a fictitious chain of toy stores in Mexico called Maven Toys, including information about products, stores, daily sales transactions, and current inventory levels at each location. What do we have in our data set? The data set contains 4 tables in Excel format. We have the products table, the stores table, the sales table, and inventory table. So the products table contains the 35 products sold at Maven Toys. Each record represents one product. So with fields containing details about the product category, cost, and retail price. We should be preparing to see a product table with just 35 products. So I think that's what this is saying. The next is the stores table contains the 50 Maven Toy store locations. Each record represents one store. And with fields, I said fields still mean the same thing as columns. So with fields or columns containing details about the store location, where the store is located, the type of the store, and the date it opened. So we should be expecting to see details about the type of the store. If it's an airport store, we're going to see that once we go through the data set. Now, the sales table contains the units sold in over 800,000 sales transactions. So over 800,000 sales transactions from January 2017 to October 2018. Each record represents the purchase of a specific product at a specific store on a specific date. The inventory table contains over 1,500 records that represents the stock on hand of each product in each store at the current point in time, October 1st, 2018. So we've gotten to know about the company, which is a toy stores company called Maven Toys. We've gotten to know about the data set or the data they provided for us, which contains 4 tables, the product, store, sales, and inventory. So let's go into the scenario now. You'll be assuming the role of a BI consultant, which is like a business intelligence consultant that has just been hired by Maven Toys as they look to expand their business with new stores. They brought you in to analyze interesting patterns and trends in their data and to help them make informed decisions. So basically, Maven Toys is hiring you in as a business intelligence consultant to help them. They've provided you with their sales, inventory, stores, and products data, and they brought you in to analyze this data set, discover interesting patterns in it, with hope to help them expand their business with opening new stores. So your task here is to share a single page visual or dashboard that outlines a potential expansion plan and contains the supporting data from your analysis. So your task here is to present a dashboard that is showing them how, that's recommending to them, making recommendations on how they can go about expanding their business, where they can choose to expand their business, which which city or which location. So the source of this data was gotten from Maven Analytics. So just give credit. So I just wanted to start off first with the case study, what the case study entails. Now that we've done this, I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about that. So I want to talk a little bit about case study. So basically, let me just come here again. Let me just emphasize that, okay, so the business is trying to look into expanding and they want to they want to identify patterns or trends in their data. Like they want to identify like sales or revenue patterns, seasonality trends, what is happening, how are we generating in revenue month by month. So let's move back to our slides. So now you're working on a case study. So I just want to put you through working on a case study. So once you start working on this case study, the first thing you would want to do is to define the purpose. You want to define the purpose. You want to choose the right metrics, present data effectively, eliminate clutter and noise, use layout to focus attention, and of course, tell a clear story. So what do I mean by all of this? Let's break it down, let's get into it. First, defining the purpose of case study. So once you're trying to define the purpose of why are you exactly performing this, why are you taking up this project, what are you trying to analyze? These are the key questions that you should consider. You should consider who will be the end users of your report. You should consider your stakeholders, like who is going to be using this report that you're making, who is going to be like your audience. Put yourself in like a typical work situation or a work environment. You're a consultant now, you're acting for a company, you're trying to analyze the data they provided for you. Who will be the end users of your report now? Is it going to be the manager of a company or an executive? So basically, what this will let you know is how you go about telling your story. So if the user of your report is going to be, let's say, a fellow data analyst as well, you can definitely go in depth with using some certain charts. But for a stakeholder or an executive that just wants to be able to look at the data and grab the insights that you're providing to him. You don't want to have to put him through like a data analyst school. Like you don't want to have to school him through understanding what this visual you're presenting to him, how he'll be able to understand it. So basically, this is why you need to understand who will be going through your report. Who are you making? Who is going to be able to take the recommendations you're providing from this and affect it in their business? So the next key question to consider is what are the business goals and objectives? So basically this now is what is your goal? What is the business problem you're trying to solve? Let's take our case study, for instance. We are being sourced by a company, Maven Toys, and we are asked to, we are told they want to expand their business. So they want to open new stores. So the key business goal here is to open new stores. So they want to open new stores, right? So they want to open new stores. Now we need to know the locations. We need to know the locations that they're going to open these stores in. So we need to understand what they want to do, which is they want to expand the business. So we need to be able to provide them with locations based on what is the highest selling, which location is driving the most revenue or driving the most profit. We need to look for key insights that can help them and that we can back up with data. So let's move on to the next. What are the most important questions they need answers to? Now, if you're in a typical business setting, you can ask I think you can ask for what do you, what would be your typical, um, how do I put this? How do I put this? What are the most important questions you want me to answer? Like, let's say they want you to tell what is their most profitable product, um, the best location to open a store in based on the data they provided to you, and they want you to identify the average transaction, say per customer. They want to know how much a customer on average is spending once they walk into any of their stores. So these are some of the questions you want to answer to help them be able to provide like a recommendation of which stores to open and products that you need to stock up on, because these products are in demand. These products are always going to be selling. So you need to stock up on this and keep this product in your inventory as well. So these are the key questions to consider. Now we've gotten define the purpose. Let's move on to the next, choosing the right metrics. So metrics are used to measure progress towards short and long-term goals and objectives. Basically, you want to tell how how much sales you have made in a particular period, say a month. How much sales have I made this month? Like, I had it, my target for this month was to make a sales of say $1 million, or let's say $50,000. What is the revenue? What is the sales that I've made this month? So metrics are there's so many metrics there's so many metrics in different industries. Now, metrics basically it gives you an insight into the business before the big dive. So before you go into once you see some dashboards online, you see card visuals that are stacked up on top. So this is just like an intro, an insight to the business. Oh, we have generated about 5 million revenue. We have about 200,000 units of products sold. It's just giving you an insight before you go down into the deep analysis. Now, choosing the right metrics, you need to identify what metrics accurately measure each business goal. This is where having an understanding in the business industry comes for. This is where you understand the important metrics that you understand the metrics that is important in the industry you're in. For example, websites, you want to know the average clicks, the amount of times. You want to know things that how many times they're clicking on a website, on a page in your website, for instance. Choosing the right metrics does not always come easy because you might not have a business knowledge in that domain industry. So this is why once you choose to work on a project, you might want to go online on Google to search, okay, the metrics in a retail industry, the metrics in a car industry or something, the metrics. You just want to know which are these important metrics that would drive decisions that your stakeholder would want to know in a typical business setting. So moving on, presenting data effectively. So this is where you pick the charts and visuals suited for the data you're working with and the story you're telling. You could also add filters here for more interactivity. Basically, at this point, you're trying to analyze your data. Now, this is where I would say exploratory and explanatory analysis comes into place. So, exploratory analysis is just you trying to ask different questions from your data and generate different charts and visuals. And then explanatory is you picking the ones, picking the just seeking to show the charts that are going to show the insights that your stakeholder is looking for. Now you're going to probably, when you start out, you're going to be creating lots of charts, and at the end you will select which chart to place. Now selecting which chart, it's not like you're trying to select the chart that's telling a story that like a biased story, but you're trying to select the right chart for the story you're telling. You're trying to select the right chart that can provide the insights they want to know, which is like the best selling location or the best selling store. So you're going to start off first with um, trying to get a feel of your data and creating different charts, and then deciding, okay, this one works best to tell this story. With this, you can grasp it. Then you can add filters for, let's say they want to filter by a specific quarter or a specific year, or for just a specific store, they want to see, okay, what is the revenue coming in from a store in this location. So let's move on to the next, eliminating clutter and noise. The noise like absent labels, excessive color, use of 3D visuals, distracting background image, grid lines, chart borders are removed at this stage. You ensure your visual is clear and it clarifies information. So you have walked through your exploratory analysis trying to create several charts, and then you've selected the required chart to show to your stakeholder. Now you want to touch up on these charts. You want to start making this chart be able to clarify your information clearly. You want to start with the use of colors, the right use of colors. You want to start with removing any extra things, any clutter, anything like your grid lines, for instance. Or perhaps you could want to, maybe you want to remove the chart borders and just separate your charts by white space. So you could remove your chart borders as well. The background image, you should not go for like a background image that will obviously distract from your insights. So this is just preparing your dashboard for like the big review, for like big review basically. Now using layout to focus attention rather. A good layout will feature the most important insights upfront and will guide your users or stakeholders through the story. Good layout is just about, once you start your dashboard, you want to probably place the most important insight at the start of your story, or you want to place it in a, should I call this a chronological order? It's just the way you tell a story. You start from the beginning telling the story. You don't start from like the end. You don't miss it in. You don't just cut chunks and place at different points. You want to start from, okay, giving them a base of it, then you go deep into it, this. So a good layout will also involve you using size and color to highlight to highlight certain parts of your data. So this is where you want to design how do you want to lay this visual out? How do you want your users to come across it? Do you want them to see a slicer at this left hand side and be able to just select it, or to see a slicer at the top? How do you want your story to flow? Do you want to start off with a product analysis, or do you want to go in depth to something else? And I'm telling a story. Telling a story, you can, in telling a story, you make use of charts and visuals, but you can also leverage on the use of text to guide users throughout your dashboard. Once you analyze your data, you want to provide insights and recommendations to take. They want to expand the store. In the end, they want to know, okay, what are you recommending for me to do based on this data I provided to you? Based on what you've analyzed so far, what should I be looking at? which store location should I be targeting for an expansion? Which product should I make sure to keep in stock because it's in demand? This is where you can leverage the use of text to explain. You can leverage the use of text to even guide users throughout your dashboard. Like at the start of the business, we had over 2,000, let's say 2,000 sales. By this, you can just use text basically to tell your story as well. I think text sometimes you see some visuals that you could as well use text instead of a simple bar chart. Sometimes text can also provide you this visual as well, and you can use a size. Let's say for the numbers, you can increase the font size to kind of emphasize on the numbers. So a little breakdown of what we'll do in this case study. So we'll go through the case study to understand the purpose or the business question first. Then we're going to prepare our data for analysis. Basically, preparing our data for analysis, this is the data cleaning step we discussed at the start of this course, where we made use of Power Query Editor for data cleaning and data transformation. Then we're going to be creating a data model because we obviously have four tables and we need to create a relationship between each table. Then we move on to visualizing and analyzing our data using the exploratory and explanatory analysis. Basically, I'm just saying your exploratory analysis, you might just be dragging and dropping visuals, just trying to get a feel of what exactly this data is telling you. Then once you've gotten a feel of that, once you've gotten what you need, then you provide your explanatory analysis, which is just you selecting the right chart from like a bunch of charts. You're just selecting charts that would tell the story best. Then, of course, you end it off with sharing some insights you noted down in your analysis based on your chart, and then you provide recommendations going further for the business. So now that we've talked about, now that we've done the little breakdown, uh, let's go through going through the case study to understand the purpose or the business question now. So we want to even understand this first before we even go ahead to start cleaning our data. So basically, the company wants to expand. It's looking for a place to open a new store, and it's going to stock up those stores with products. So it needs to know like the time to maybe open a new store and the products to stock up on in your inventory. So basically, our business question is could include questions like, let's say number one, what is their best-selling product? Two, what is the best place, I mean, to open a new store? And it will be interesting to tell the business the average transaction made by a customer. So the average transaction made by a customer is on an average, a customer walking into your store, how much are they spending in dollars? Like how much are they going to spend in dollars once a customer walks to your store? So you can be able to analyze how many dollars customers are spending like in different stores to say, okay, customers are spending more on average in a particular store location. So this can help us in this analysis. So we're going to explore all of this and more. So to start off with, we are going to start by preparing our data for analysis. So we'll head off to Power BI and start with getting our data into Power BI. I'm just going to Power BI right now. I'm just closing the pop-up box that shows. So I'm going to be sharing the data set as well. So I inserted a link to the data set in the slides. So once I share this, so the data set, no, that was just a case study. I'm going to be sharing the data set on the Telegram group. So if immediately the class ends, I'll send that to the Telegram group. So you can try working on it as well. So let's get our data in first. So I'm just going to click Excel workbook since our data comes in an Excel format. This is my data. So they will establish a connection. The navigator window has popped open. So I'm just waiting for it to load. So I think I saw a question one time about like are we going to always have different different tables in our, what's the right way to phrase this? Are we going to have different tables coming together that are establishing relationships, or are we going to be breaking it? I don't know if this is making sense, but what I'm trying to say is, so we have four tables here, and I'm going to connect these four tables together once we get to the data modeling stage. Now, sometimes you might have a very large data set and you need to break that data set down. You would need to use maybe Excel to break down the data set. So that's why I didn't really bring that up, because this is like a Power BI class, but that's where Excel, comes in always. So you can break that down into different sheets of data, and then you import it to Power BI to model, to like establish relationships between each table. So now this is our data set in already. So I'm just going to show you like a preview of the data set. So you can see what happens now. Like you can see some tables being just very simple, basic tables. We're having four tables. So I'm just going to select all of them because I want all of them in. So these are the four tables. So I'm just going to click on transform my data. So once that's loaded, the Power Query editor is supposed to come up. That's supposed to come up. Okay. So now I have two tabs basically open: Power BI interface and the Power Query editor. And you can just come here where it says. So you can see at this bottom left, right, bottom left, you can see column profiling based on top 1000 rows. I can select this and select column profiling based on entire data set. So column profiling was one of the data profiling techniques that I talked about when we were in data cleaning class. So this is going to just take like maybe a minute to load. Let's see. Shouldn't take long, or is the rows of data quite large? Okay, as that's loading, let me just take a question from the group chat. So I see a question: do the four tables represent different sheets on an Excel workbook? Yes, Norman, it represents different sheets on an Excel workbook. The four tables represent different sheets on an Excel workbook, but you can also have different like workbooks and with just a sheet in between them and then do that as well. I don't know if that explains it, but yes, this is these are the four worksheets in a single Excel workbook. So this is actually even taking a lot to load. I don't think this took that long when I tried it. I just have patience. I think this is why Power BI or by default it always just provides you with column profiling based on just the top 1,000 rows, top 1,000 rows, just because it takes a while to do this. I think while that is working, let's see. I think while that is loading, we should just go ahead, start familiarizing ourselves with the data, right? I think I'm going down. I think this by touching. So let's just stick with this. I think there's something. Let's just stick with top 1,000 rows instead of wasting time and waiting for this to load. Let's just stick with this. Yeah. But once you're applying any data cleaning, it applies to all the rows, so it doesn't necessarily matter. So let's start with the first table we have in our data. We have the inventory table. Now for the inventory table now, I'm just going to start off with, let's see, let's see if I can get my case study details here. Let's go to Power BI. So I can come to this little drop down box here to check if all is looking good. So let's start off with removing duplicates first. So I'm just going to hit Control A to select all. Then I'll come to my remove rows and then remove duplicates. So that's going to apply. And just looking at this data set, let's see. Can see that there is no null in this table. The last entry is 50. You can just use the little drop down box to check if you want to. While I was going to use column profiling for the entire data set, it was going to show me that instead of doing this, going down just to check, column profiling based on the entire data set would show me the amount of valid, which is 100%. So I could have just waited for that to load. So you can wait for that to load. I'm sure it didn't take me maybe 3 minutes when I did that earlier on, but I don't know why it's happening. So basically, I'm just scrolling down to check for nulls in this, and so even remove duplicates, and I think this data is fairly clean. So that's one thing you get from Maven's data playground. Most of their data sets are fairly clean. So now we come on to the product data set. We have a product ID. Okay, let's move on to the inventory. I think I got distracted a bit. Moving on to the inventory. So I've dealt with the duplicates and I've checked through there are no nulls. So I would want to select the right data type. So the store ID is just a unique identifier for each store. So I'm just going to make this a text format because I'm not performing any numerical calculations on it. So I can just make it a text format. So the product ID as well, I'll make that a text format. The stock on hand, these are actually quantities or number of stocks you have on hand. So I'll leave this as um, numbers. I'll just leave this the right data type. So I'll move on to my product table. Now there's one thing I want to mention here now. Let's go back to inventory table. So this store ID, if I'm going to see it in another table as a column, I would have to be consistent with my data type as well, because once I head off to data modeling and the data types are not the same, I would face an issue there basically. So I need to be consistent with my data types. So for product ID here, which is also a unique identifier, I'll just change that to text. So I'll add new step. For product name, this is looking good as just text. So product cost now. For my product cost, I want to change this to this is dollar sign. So this is for a company, I think they're using dollars. So I'm just going to change this to a fixed decimal number, which has dollar sign. So once I do that, I get this error. And if you were part of the data cleaning class, you would understand that this error can easily be resolved by going to the File tab. Under your options and settings, you get to see your options. So you select options. Once option comes in, I'm just going to go down to the current file and I'm going to select regional settings. So it's saying English Nigeria, and I'm just going to change this to English United States. So once I do that, I'm going to delete this step of type and I'm going to repeat it again. Add new step, and it's going to work. So I'll do the same for this product size here as well, to decimal number, and then I'm just going to just Control A and remove rows, remove duplicates. So I'm heading off to my stores table. So head off to my stores table, and I'm going to start off with the store ID as well. Data type should be what? Should be text format. So add new step. Store name, text, that's fine. Store city, 29, store city rather, text. Store location, text. Store open date. This is date type. This is just a date format, which is already here. And you can tell in my stores I have 50 entries, and just like I was provided here, the stores contain the 50 Maven Toy stores locations. So I'm not sure you can clearly see that, but from the case study details, I'm supposed to have 50 store locations. So I'm just going to hit country. So this is just showing me 50 already. So there are basically no duplicates here, but just to still be sure, I can go ahead and still do remove rows and remove duplicates. But it's basically still the same thing. I'll head off to the next table, which is my sales table. The sales ID, this should be a text format. So what I'm saying with all of this is These are just unique identifiers. So once somebody buys a product, once you make an order, you have an identification with it. So this identification number has no cannot be used to perform any numerical calculations. Basically, it's just like a an attribute, just like a name. Just look at it like a name or something. So store ID, I'll change that to text format as well. Product ID, text, number of units, numerical, which is numbers, that's fine. So I'm just going to use Control A, remove rows, remove duplicates. So once I feel I'm done with the data cleaning, which I think the data is, I'm just going to go over here to close and apply that to Power BI. So that's going to load. That's going to start loading now. So you can tell that my sales table is still loading. So my sales table contains large number of entries. So that has loaded in now. This is where I'm going to have a discussion about the modeling. So before we model first, we need to know what is our fact table and what is our dimension table, basically. Looking at this data set, and let me see, so this is our sales data set. This is our product. This is our inventory, product, sales, and stores. So this stores data set basically contains the store name and the store city. These are just attributes. But once you come on to this sales, you get your events data, which is telling you that the sale ID on Sunday, the 1st January 2017, a product to product ID 8, 1 unit was sold. So this is telling us about event happening. This is an event data. So this as an event data, this is our fact table. So remember when I said when you have a data containing events, basically I told you an example of a fact table is your sales and financial data. So this is our fact table, and these other tables here, inventory and product, that are just containing information or attributes about our fact tables, are called our dimension tables. So why do we need to know this? We need to know this when we go off to our modeling tab and we start creating relationships. So this is my report view, this is my data view, which I used to just show you this data set. And then I go off to my model, my data model. So I'm going to just let me just reduce this a little bit so you can see all the tables. Don't want it to be too small. Let me just bring this one. Don't want to reduce the size. So this is the sales table. So the sales table, so this is just like I'm just doing like a star schema. And basically, a star schema is just arranging everything with basically a star schema is arranging everything in form of like a star shaped. So your sales table is going to be at the middle, and your sales table, yeah, or your fact table is going to be at the middle, and surrounding tables around it. So I can come off here to delete any relationship and go ahead to create relationship between tables. So I'm just going to delete this to start out with. One thing Power BI does is it automatically detects relationship for you to begin with. So let me just do this. You don't have to delete relationships sometimes. It works. You might want to check it though. But personally, I work with the relationships that Power BI detects for me. I think it does a good job for most of the times. But I just want to show you how to like create relationships. So I'm deleting them. So I've deleted the relationships now, and I'm going to go ahead to create one. So I remember I mentioned earlier, I talked about many to one to many relationships. So to to establish a relationship between two tables, they obviously have to have something in common, which is a column or which is a key. Basically, my sales column has a store ID, which I can use to link with my stores. Let's see if I can increase this zoom a little bit. Let's see. Let me try it to see if okay. So my sales table has this my store ID, which I can link to my stores table. So I can just drag and drop to create a relationship between them. Once I do that, automatically you see this line showing a one-to-many relationship now. Now I can do the same for the rest. This is my inventory containing my store ID and this. I don't think, let's try this first. Okay, so yeah, I get the pop-up of many-to-many relationship, and I don't want to create a many-to-many relationship. I don't think I will be needing that, and I particularly don't have much knowledge that, so I'm just going to delete this. I'm just going to create a relationship between this inventory table and my stores table. I just say store ID to store ID. So created a relationship there. A relationship to with my sales table and my products table, so I can be able to define some measures later on. So my product ID and my product ID. So I'm basically just connecting based on what they have in common. I could create this with this, want many products and inventory as well. So this is my data model now. So I can just move on to my report view. I think this is okay. This is working. So moving on to my report view, uh, the data set was fairly clean, so it didn't take time to do that. So it didn't take time. We didn't have to use the find and replace. We didn't have to remove any columns that were not necessary in our analysis. And there was fairly no duplicates. So data cleaning process a bit was kind of a bit fast. So that's good news, at least for anybody that does not like work like me. So let's start off with our business problem. Let's start getting into the analyzing it. So I'm just going to be trying out charts to start off with. So let's start off with some metrics. Let's start off with the basic card visual now. So I'm just trying to create different charts, and then we're going to, once we want to create our dashboards, and I'm going to position them well. So this is just creating some metrics. So let's start off with, let's see what is the total, revenue we have, or total revenue is still the same thing as total sales. So what is the total sales the company made from the year January 2017? We're analyzing the data set of January 2017 to, let me just, so we can keep that in mind probably. Let's just insert a text box. Let me just insert the text box just to write that. Of January 2017. So let's just write January 2017 to, let's just say, September 2018, which is what we're giving it. So I'm just keeping this here. Just like that. This is just a simple. We're still going to make edits to this when we progress to the layout stage. We're going to create a background for all of this and position everything well. So this is just for us to just keep track of what we're actually doing. So to start out up with, let's create our card visual telling us how many revenue did we make in this time period. So what was the total sales made by the Maven Toys company from January 2017 to 2018? Let's start off with that first. So I'm dealing with sales. I want to know the total sales, right? Or total revenue. Same thing. So I'm coming to my sales table here, and I see I have unit, store ID, product ID. Okay, let's move to the data view where we can see it clearly. So I'll select sales. So product ID and the unit sold. But I want to get the total sales. To get the total sales, I need to do price times quantity, which is unit price times the unit, which is just this unit. This unit is the same thing as quantity, unit of item, but just a unit of item or more than one unit, depending on the transaction. So for total sales, the formula is quantity times price, right? So I have my quantity here, but what is the price of each sale? What is the price of this product? So I can tell from the first, the product ID 8 and product ID 8, which could be a specific product, toy, electronics, I don't know what, but product ID 8, 1 unit of it was gotten. So what is the price of the good with this ID number 8? Why is it not, it's not clearly shown here? The price, where am I going to find this price? I'm going to find this price where, once I come over to my product table, I'm going to be seeing a product price and a product cost. So seeing this now, I'm seeing this here in naira. I don't know why am I seeing this in naira. Let's see. Let me change this to dollars. So basically, what I did is to change this to dollars. Like, look at it. This is showing naira. I'm just going to repeat it again. I come here to my product price, select it. I select the column here, and then I'm going to see this column tools here, and this sign here, I'm just display the values in this as a currency. I'm just going to select this. and then this is in my dollar sign. So this is what I wanted to see. So back to our question of the total revenue, which is same thing as the total sales. So I can see product cost and product price. Now we have a cost price and a selling price. So this is how much it costs to get this product, and $9.99, and this is how much it was sold for, $15.99. So if I want to get the revenue or the sales, I would need to multiply what? Which of these will I need to multiply? I will need to multiply the product price and the unit, not the cost price. I don't need the cost price for this. So the total sales, because this is the amount you're selling it for. You're selling it for an amount greater than this. So I'm just going to need to multiply this product price with this value in my sales table, with this unit. But why are they not in the same table to make things all easy for me? Just to go ahead and say, okay, let me just create a calculated column with just unit product price times unit. They're not in the same table. So this is where it gets tricky. This is where DAX is going to come in. Now, if you were in Excel and you have a value that is in another table, in another sheet, and you want to make reference to it or you need it, this is where VLOOKUP comes in. This is where you can use a look up this value from this sheet. But in DAX, or in Power BI rather, what comes in is this is where you use a DAX function. This is where you make use of DAX, and this is where a function called related comes in, like relating one table to another table, related. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's go to, and remember one thing I said is in Power BI, to optimize your reports, basically optimizing your report means you don't want your report to take a lot of time to load and refresh. To do that, you need to make sure that you try to use measures for most of the times. So any case you know you can use a measure and not a calculated column. And you know, I explained earlier that a calculated column is just going to show it in physical sense. Measures is not going to show you. And measures use an aggregate function. So back to our question now, the sales, what is the total sales or the total revenue? So I'm going to come over here to my sales column. I'll select it, right click, and I'll select new measure. I'm going to call this my total revenue. So we know total revenue is what? Is the sales multiplied by your, sorry, it's the product price multiplied by the units sold, right? And one thing I mentioned, when you're using a measure, you always have to start with an aggregate function. I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can just, how can I put this forward? Okay, let me just go ahead. So this is just you're going to make use of an aggregate function to start with, sum x. So just go with me first. If you don't get it, I'm going to take it over. So let's just move first. So sum x of, what table am I referencing? What table do I want to sum a particular value in? I'm referencing my sales table. My sales table, I want to get the total revenue or the total sales from. So I'm going to type in my sales table, comma, and what is my expression? What is the expression I want to write? So I can just hit shift enter to enter a new line. This is just for readability. I can still write it in the same line. So I'm hitting shift enter and I enter a new line of code. So what do I want to do now? I want to multiply what? I want to multiply the units sold in that sales table, which I don't think I can go there right now. So I want to multiply the unit sold, which is, I'm just going to type unit sold, and Power BI should, yes, see, Power BI is already showing me the unit from the sales table. So I select that. So I want to multiply that by what? By the price, product price, right? But the product price is not in the sales table. So how do I access the product price that is in the product table? I would have to use related. So once I get related, they are going to show me different tables that are related to my sales table. So I'm seeing my products table now, which is what I need, and I'm just going to select the product and the product price, and then I'm going to just close that. Then I'm going to click enter. Once I hit enter, you're going to see a total revenue, a measure created under that sales column that I started with. So I'm just going to drag and drop this here so I can populate it in my card visual. Why this is showing me as this? Okay, I didn't select. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you something. So once you write your measure, you can also decide here to format it in the currency you want. You can decide here the number of decimal places you want. If you want to increase your decimal place, you go up or you come down. So now I'm just going to drag and drop this total revenue 14 million. So I can go up to increase it. I want to see, let's say I want to see the full price. So I'm just going to go up, like I'm increasing the decimal. I'm still selecting this column. That's why I can be able to effect any change there. Let's just leave this as 14.5 million. That's okay. Okay, let's just leave it. Just leave that this total revenue for now. I'm still going to work on this. Don't think I like it rounded up, but let's just stick with this. Let's try to understand what I did first. Let's go back to that function again. That's formula I wrote to understand it again. So there are two functions I used in this. I used my SumX and I used my related. And I made use of an operator, which is this multiplication sign that is like an asterisk. So those are the three things I used apart from the tables. So I made use of SumX and related. So let's undo everything individually. Let's break it down. Let's start with related. I said related is just going to take you to another table. It's going to relate one table to another table. So if you're looking for something in your table that is not there but is in your second table, so I was looking for price for each product ID and it's not here, but I already know I created a relationship between this my sales table and my product table that has this product price. So this is where modeling comes into place. I had to create that relationship first. So I need my product price. So let's just go back to the formula again so you can see it while I explain. SumX now. That's why I started off with explaining what SumX does yesterday, but I'll go over it again so I'm sure it's really clear. So SumX is an aggregator function. So basically, if you're just going to use sum function, now let's say you just want to do sum of, let's say, revenue. Now, the column revenue, sum is just going to sum up everything in that column, like just a single line, just a column. But SumX, what SumX does is it iterates through each row. So basically, how the formula executes is going to be multiplying the unit times the product price for the first row, and it's going to keep it. Then it's going to repeat it for the second row, keep it, the third row, the fourth row, and then at the end, it's going to add up everything together. So that's why SumX is called like an iterator function, like it's iterating, like it's repeating it, the sales. So I think that works. So basically, to rewrite this function again, I know I don't want to see it physical table in the physical table format. So that's why I wrote this measure. So let's see. So this is let's see. Let me try rewriting this function again. So I want to sum up values in, let me try writing solution so you can try to like follow me along. So total total revenue total revenue, and I know total revenue is going to be multiplying two things together, and I'm going to be summing up each row together. So I'm going to need an iterator function, which is my sum x. So once I hit sum x and I start with an open bracket, it's going to tell me table and expression. So I would use table. Table, which table do you want to perform this function in? I want to do this in my sales table. Is my sales table, I'll get my total sales or total revenue. So I'm going to write sales. So it's come up, I'll just select it. Then what expression do you want to do? What mathematical expression do you want to do? Are you performing a product? Of course, I'm performing a product of my unit item and the price. So unit item, right? Unit. So this is why it's good to familiarize yourself with your columns. So by going to my data view, I already know what the column header is. That is unit. So I can just start typing unit to begin with, and I would expect to see something come up that will just fine and easily assist me. I'll just select it, unit. Okay, unit multiplied by what? By the product price, right? But my product price is not in my sales table. So what do? I would have to find a function to relate it. So I would use my related. Once it's related, they will ask me, select the column name you're trying to access, and I'm trying to access what? The product price. Then I'm going to close my brace. Then I'm just going to hit enter. So I wrote all of this in one line. It's going to work. You can just do shift and enter if you want to like maybe organize, because there are complex DAX functions that you're going to see people write online. So that's why I try to like provide lines, kind of like lines of code or lines of function rather now. So this is just basically how I can calculate my total revenue from this table. So this is where DAX comes into place, data analysis expressions. So now I think that's explanatory enough. So I would move on to the next. Let me just remove this total revenue. Now let's say I want to get the total cost price, like the cost of goods sold. So I got the sales of goods, the total sales. Now, cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is like total cost of all goods sold is the total amount of money you spent like buying all of those goods. So let's come over here to this table here. Let's see, you can see this product cost. So now this is the money. This is the cost of the goods. So to get the cost of goods sold or the total cost price, I will need to multiply this product cost times the unit item. So for my total sales or total revenue, I multiplied, let's come over to the DAX. I want to see the DAX measure come up. I multiplied my units by the product price, but for my total cost price or cost of goods, I'm going to be multiplying units and the product cost, because I want to know what is the cost of these goods that I have in sale. How much did I get all of these goods sold? So that's what I'm going to do now. Instead of typing this function over and over again, I can just come here and copy that, Ctrl C, and then I'm going to go to my sales, create a new measure. Rename my measure to, let's say, cost of goods sold. And I'm just going to copy paste that formula. and I'm going to just edit that formula. So I can still retype it. So instead of product price, now I'm going to be changing that. Or you know what? Let me just change that first, then I'll take you to the process again. Product price, product price. I'm just going to change this to product cost, which is here. I'm going to hit enter. So I'm going to create a new card visual. What's this? So I'll be creating a new card visual. A new card visual to show you that. So cost of goods sold, the measure is already created now under the sales table. So I drag and I drop. I did not specify again. This is why showing me this Naira sign. Not that I don't like Naira. So I'm just going to say it here. So the total sales or the total revenue is 14. Now this is where it comes into place. Let me just make this standard as well. Let's just use two decimal places for both so it looks better. So the total revenue here is 14.44 million and the total cost of goods is 10.43 million. So this just means I bought all the items for a sum of $10.43 million and I sold it at 14.44 million naira. So this can help me to be able to have a sense of how to calculate my profit, because basically you want to know what we call your gross profit margin. Gross profit margin is kind of like an indicator used to like compare your should I call it like your business among other businesses in the same industry. So before we delve into that, let me see if so basically this cost of goods sold that I calculated still was still the same way I calculated revenue. I just changed the product price. Instead of product price, I want the cost price. So it's just like cost price and selling price that we taught in school. You kind of get. So let's go ahead to calculate the profit made by this company. So I'm going to go to my sales table and create a new measure. So basically, sometimes you might be creating a lot of measures and it might get confusing with your measures with your columns. So I've been seeing on some YouTubes that you can go ahead and create like a measure table, but I haven't started practicing that. So we're just going to be doing it like this, or I'm going to be doing it like this for now, but you can go online and see other methods. So basically, I want to calculate my profit. So what's the calculation for profit? Profit is just your total sales minus your cost, or your total revenue minus the cost of goods sold. So I'm just going to use the formula I have here, the measure that I have here, total revenue. See that pop up? I'll just go ahead and use it. Minus cost of goods sold, cost of goods sold. Use this. And then I'm just going to enter. So that's going to load, and then I'm going to create a card visual and cost of goods sold. No, not cost, profit, please. Profits rather. Still forgot to change that as well. Okay. Um, just a little break. I see a question in the chat box saying, why are we having red? You mentioned, or basically what people are trying to say is the measure formula is indicating red color. Is there any error in the formulas now? So there is no error in the formula. There is no error in the formula. But I've noticed that sometimes It tends to do that, but there's no error in this formula. I don't really know the reason, because if there is an error, okay, look now, I just took a space. You can see this is the same formula now that was indicating as if there's an error. Now I did not do anything, just showing me. If there is an error in this formula, it's not going to work. Let me just show you what I mean. So this is my cost of goods sold I calculated earlier. I'm going to make, see now, there's an error in this formula because there's no closing brackets, but it's not telling me right now. I'm just going to hit enter. And then let me try it. Sum of sales units, related products. Okay. Just taking a while. I think my system is a little bit okay. Cost of goods. Are you seeing this sign here already showing me that there's an error right now? This is because of the, you can see how many brackets I have on here. So sometimes it's not really intuitive enough to really distinguish. But if there is an error, if you're seeing the red sign, you can still go ahead to just click enter. If there's an error, it's not going to work. It will not work if there's an error. So I'm going ahead to repeat this because there's no error. So for my profit here, I think we calculated the profit. We just did this whole thing. So basically, sometimes it's kind of like, I've been trying to figure out that to like, why show me a red sign when I'm sure I even go over the code and I see that it's correct and I'm not forgetting any brace, no, I'm not forgetting anything. So, but like now you can see. But basically, what I mean to say is if there's an error, it's going to give you like a warning there and it's not going to work. So that's how you can tell. Now, you can see that this is having a dollar sign. So this total revenue, just saying 14.44 million, is not going to really provide context. What are we talking about? So I'm just going to show you this. Where is it? Total revenue. Let me just select the dollar sign I talked about earlier. So this is it. So now let's try to get our gross, or what should we try to get? Should we try to get our gross profit margin? That would be um, a good indicator. That would be like a good metric for the business, the gross profit margin. Your like a profit. So let me try the let me just get that. Let's try the gross profit margin. Let's come here. Mm, let me measure. So these metrics are the formulas are, you don't need to necessarily know everything. You just need to know what you want to get. Like you can be able to browse online and do a little research on which metrics are important for some industries, and then you come along here and create like the DAX function or formula this to put in this. So I'm just going to show you how to calculate the gross profit margin. So to calculate this, your gross profit margin is just your profit by your total revenue, which is like divided by your total revenue. So it's just, so this is just a simple, so I'm just going to just be doing this, just a simple measure profit divided by total revenue, total revenue, and then enter. And then I'm just going to select gross profit margin here. And gross profit margin is in percentage, so I want to show this as a percentage. I don't want, so I've selected it here before I started, before this measure tools. So once you select a measure, I think I should have pointed that out earlier. Once you select a measure, you're going to have like an additional tab here where you can see like your measure tools. So it's in this tab measure tools that I apply some formatting to my measures. So like I'm formatting it to be percentage because this is gross profit margin is calculated in percentage. And then I can remove this, remove. So I'm just going to drag and drop the gross. Okay, this is cost of goods I'm doing here. Okay, no, this is a mistake. This is the wrong one. I was messing with the wrong measure. I was messing with the cost of goods sold. It's the gross profit margin I wanted to select, and percentage. Okay, so now I can drag and drop. So the gross profit margin is 27.79% for the company. Now I think checking online, the gross profit margin is not a bad one for the industry it is in. I'm just going to check in the chat box if there's any questions for now. If there's any questions. Okay, I think I'm seeing a question about merging tables and modeling. So merging tables and modeling are two different things. So merging tables, you're actually placing these tables on, like you're placing these tables like you're joining them together like on each other. But modeling tables, you're just creating a relationship between these tables. So it's almost like you only merge. You can go ahead to merge when you have different, let's say your data set comes in, like you have a January month data set, you have like February, this is when you get to use merge. Like let's say your Google, like the Google capstone project data analytics, let's say you have your statistic that you have for like January, February months of data sets. So this is when you can like merge them together. So these are sets that you merge together. But for this, these are not data sets that you merge together. You just create like a relationship between them. I see another question. May you please go through the first part of the price of goods sold? So I'll go through that and we'll create I think last measures price of goods sold. So this is it, the price of goods sold or the cost price of goods sold. So basically what I did here is the same thing I did in my total sales or total revenue. The only switch was the product price to the product cost. So I want to get the cost of goods sold. Let me come to my table and show you what I mean. This is the unit. This is my sales table. I have a product ID 8, product ID 8, and unit. One unit was sold. So I want to get the cost price of this. How much did I buy this product before selling it? So I want to multiply this unit with the product cost, which is here in my product table, with this product cost here. So I have to create like a relationship between them. So basically what I'm going to do is I'll just come up to this measure here and show you what I did here. So let's just try creating that again. So I'm still going to use the same iterator function, which is sum x. So once you do that, you're going to see a table. It's going to be pop-up of the table. So you're just going to select the table. And we're in the sales table now. So I'm going to select the sales table. So I want to perform the sales of the total cost price of goods. Okay, what's going on? I think Power BI. Let me just try it again. What's happening in Power BI today? That literally just turned off for the first time ever. Let's see. So this might be a good avenue to show what happens like when you're working on a project and probably due to power supply or something, it goes off and you can be able to recover it. Let's see if it's going to work this way because I don't understand what just happened. It's almost like Power BI just logged me off for what. Let's see. So auto recovery contains some recovered files that haven't been opened. I'm going to select view recovered files. View. So this is the time is what? The time is 7:38. So I'm going to look for 7:38. So this is the closest 7:35. So this is the recovered file because I'm just going to click on open. This was the file I was working on earlier. What? How did that turn off though? Okay, I'm just going to each file and save this. So let's just take a question, and so that's how you also, I think, what I would, hmm? What was that? Wait, what's happening? What's happening? It keeps closing. I'm not adding open Power Query. It gets too much for the data to load. That's the only thing. Can't get in touch with them now. Oh, choose my live stream. Hold on. So I am a little bit frustrated with the fact that it keeps closing off. So I'm just going to take question, and we're going to round up today's section. I think we've gained something already for today, and it keeps frustrating me a little bit. So I'm just going to take question, and we're going to wrap up today's session and pick up from here tomorrow. Okay. What happens if you drag and drop with no clear relationship between the facts and dimensions? John, I like your question. I like the thought process. I think you're going to probably get an error. I think it's not going to work. I haven't tried it, so I would like you to go and try it out. So I will see how that works. So I always just stick with the basics, like I create a relationship between the table and before writing my DAX function. So I suspect that once you start trying to write your DAX function to use the related, it's not going to bring up the table. So once you write that related function, once you write some X, your sales, and you write related, it's not going to bring up any tables because you have not established a relationship between those tables. So that is my thought, and that's my answer for this question. So you will not be able to create these measures because there will be no table to relate it to. Okay, I think I guessed another question here. Please, why are you changing the product ID to text instead of numbers since it has numbers and not text? So product ID is a kind of like a unique identifier or an attribute. So you can't perform numerical calculations on the product ID. This is why you have to like leave it in the text format because you can't be you can't sum up the product ID. I don't know how to put it. You can only perform like a count. It's just like people, or let me use like phone numbers for instance. You can't have two phone numbers together. You can only count the phone numbers. Okay, we have a one phone number here. This is the second phone number. So this product ID and store IDs are just like unique identifier. Like you can see a product ID, you can see an order ID with let's say ABDE1234. Like you're not going to call these numbers in this case, are you? So this is just by in this case, though it's represented with like one, two, three. These are just This should be represented in text format because you aren't going to be performing any numerical calculations on this. But I've been reading online and I've been seeing the fact that they say for Power BI's performance, it's easy to leave your numbers in a to for Power BI to work with numbers than with text. That it kind of compresses numbers well than text. Let me not bring that up here. Let me not bring that up here because it can get confusing. Basically, what I'm saying is once you see your product ID or your store ID, it is identified as text format. It is not a number. It is not a number format. So I think that's it. Let me check for another question. All right. I see another question here. So the question is, I have a small business. I want to apply data analysis. Please, where or how can I gather data to know why I don't make sales much? So
Okay,
Tina will answer that question.
Obianuju, for the small business, you said I have a small business. I want to apply data analysis. I want to apply data analysis. Please, where or how can I gather data to know why I don't make sales much? So what I will advise you to do is this. If you've not been collecting data, you can start collecting data because apparently you want to analyze your own business. So the best thing to do is to collect your own data. What kind of data am I asking you to collect? If you've been selling before, or consequently, if you've not been collecting data before, you can start collecting data. So you know that okay, what particular products that you are selling that sells the most, or what day people buy your product the most. These are the kind of data you should be collecting. Where people, the location of people buying your product from. I don't know what you're selling, but these are when you are doing a sales, when you want to analyze sales, these are the kind of data you can collect that will help you make business driven decisions. So you can start by analyzing all these data. It will help you to know the kind of products what you should focus on, or if you sell maybe two kind of products, you need to also analyze what kind of products people are buying together. This is also something you can analyze, and how to recommend maybe somebody that is buying one of those products, you just recommend the next product to the person. So these are kind of like the data you can collect. So I won't tell you to collect someone else's data to analyze your sales. So you can just start, if you've not been collecting data before, you can start collecting data. I mean, this is the idea behind data analytics. This is where data analytics come in place. So you can start collecting data. That will help you to make decision and to help improve your sales as well. I hope this answers your question, but if it doesn't, you can send me a message online. I will still put you through.
I see your comment, Bolaji. Thank you. I'll do that. Thank you. Um, what if I see Sean Solomon's comment? What if we have a single sheet with many information that we need to break down into different sheets? How do we go about that? Now, you can definitely break down a single sheet into different. So you can do this in both Excel, and I think you can do this in Power BI as well in your Power Query. So you can filter it to only contain how can I show you something? Let me see. Don't think we have enough time, but you can do this in your Power Query editor. Basically, you can filter the data to contain just a particular population or a particular sample. You can filter that data just to have that sample, and you can also um, replicate the query, make another query, and also filter it for a particular population. So you can go ahead and slim fit your data in your Power Query by removing the columns. So if you have a data set that is too large and you want to split it up into like the way into different categories. You can remove some columns from the data and remove some rows from the data. So you can also create another query and remove the rows you do not need in that, so you can be able to create just little little just like small and concise tables that would help when you that will optimize your reports. So I think that's the answer for that. You can also go online to get better ways, but um that's the best answer I can give for that. You can also do that in Excel as well, but since we're talking about Power BI, you can do that in your Power Query editor also. So tomorrow we're going to go into analyzing the data set properly. So today we just identified some metrics like the total revenue the company generated from the start of the quarter 2017 to the third quarter 2018, and we were able to generate the cost of goods sold, the profit, and the gross profit margin. Tomorrow we'll pick up from there, and hopefully we'll make much progress tomorrow. So thank you for joining me today, and there are no questions. I think that's what we'll call it, take a break for today. So thank you for joining once again. I hope you learned something, and tomorrow we meet again by the same time. So good night. Have a very good day.